The Philadelphia Museum of Art was modeled by the temples that the Greeks built 2,500 years ago. The museum was painted with bright colors favored by the ancient Greeks. Many of our buildings found today come from the original Greek building. The buildings along the Philadelphia River were built in the classic Greek style. The name Philadelphia comes from the Greek word for brotherly love. Greek styles influenced architecture in many countries during the past 2,000 years. The most notable features of Greek architecture is the use of columns to support the roof. The Greeks perfected certain literary forms. One popular Greek literary form is epic poetry. They also wrote a shorter form of poetry called lyric poetry. Painters and sculptors learned from the Greeks. The Greeks sculpted the human body in a way that is both beautiful and flawless. Other countries copied the Greek art and passed it on. The Greeks were the first people to record the past accurately. The historian Herodotus is called the father of history. The Greeks looked beyond the gods for questions. They believed that Poseidon caused the earthquakes. Then Thales claimed that the world rested on water, but his belief was wrong. Philosophers developed ways of seeking knowledge that are still used today. Pythagoras created geometry. Euclid is called the father of geometry. He wrote a book explaining how geometry works. Hippocrates was the first doctor who looked for natural causes. People also believed that acts of the gods caused diseases. Aristotle was a philosopher and a scientist. He studied with Plato for 20 years and wrote about philosophy, biology, medicine, psychology, physics, math, drama, and music. Also, he founded the Lyceum, a center for studying history and science. He wrote a book called History of Animals and gave descriptions of animal life and fish life. Aspasia was a teacher and writer. She became the companion of Pericles, who was a politician. In Athens, Aspasia opened a school and taught philosophy and debate. She argued that women should be taught and educated like men. Aspasia wrote Pericles' funeral orientation, which was a very powerful speech. Pericles was a military and political leader. He believed that all citizens should participate in democracy. He suggested that people be paid for serving on the juries and on the Council of 500. At the end of the Persian Wars, Pericles beautified Athens with many new buildings and a beautiful new entrance to the Acropolis and the Parthenon, a temple to honor the goddess Athena. Plato was a philosopher and a teacher. He was a student and close friend to Socrates. In his book, The Republic, he wrote that the best state was that everyone got to do the task that he or she wanted to do. According to himself, some people would be farmers and merchants, some would be military leaders, and some would be rulers. In 386 BCE, he founded a school called an academy, where historians consider the Western world's first class of higher learning. Pythagoras was a philosopher and a mathematician. Historians thought that Pythagoras was the world's greatest mathematician. He developed the Pythagorean theorem, a mathematical theorem that describes the relationship among the sides of a right triangle. He also found that if a musician plucks a note on the lyre and holds on to the center of the string, a new sound will sound out of the instrument an octave higher than the first note. Sappho was a female poet. She was one of the first people to write lyric poems. They were short verses that described strong feelings and were usually played along with a lyre. Sophocles was one of Athens' greatest playwrights. He wrote 123 plays, and his most famous one is Oedipus Rex. He made several changes to Greek drama. Some of them include using 3 actors instead of 2 and increased the size of the chorus from 12 to 15 members. Sophocles was the first person to use painted backdrops. Thucydides was a historian and writer. He was exiled out of the Peloponnesian War. During his 20 years out of the war, he wrote a history about it. Some historians explain events as actions of the gods, but Thucydides wrote an account of the war that was free of legends and myths. His manner for recording the events was a model for the later historians to follow.